Oh. So to Wino and B, thank you very much. To everybody that's here, thank you for being here. To the Project Morry staff, unbelievable, you guys are amazing. And every time I think I'm a halfway decent human being, I think of Don Ewing and realize what an absolute awful human I am. So, Don, you're a rock star, thank you. So Jerry Seinfeld famously says that people's number one fear is not dying, that their number one fear is speaking in public, which means that if people are going to a funeral, they would much rather be in the box than giving the eulogy. And I decided that C.K. Sweet, who's our auctioneer tonight, that I would like to add another auction item, which is who will give the highest bid to have him do their eulogy, because I would pay anything to have him come to mine. He was a rock star. He was amazing, so thank you. I'm so old I can't even see. It's so dark up here. I probably do. But so one more thing is that I really shouldn't be given this honor because I think I'm the only person that's ever actually been banned from an event at Morry's camp. And Michael Gabay, who's here, is familiar with this because I go up to Morry's camp every summer with my family, with friends, and it's an amazing place, and I'll talk about it a little more in a little while. But there's a game that's called Gaga. And for those of you who are not familiar with Gaga, years ago we used to have dodgeball. And dodgeball we would, kill each other, and it's toned down a little bit. So Gaga is, there's a ring, there's a circular ring, and inside of the ring there's sand, and you're supposed to just hit the kickball gently at the other kids, and if you hit them, they're out, and the last person in wins. So it's lovely and it's terrific, and when you go up to Morry's camp as a visitor, Dawn will assign you to a group, and Michael and I were with the 10-year-olds, and they wanted to play Gaga, which sounded like a great opportunity to win a championship. So Michael and I proceeded to play Gaga, and I guess somehow I took it a little bit seriously and ended up winning the Gaga game over the 10-year-olds, which at the time I thought was phenomenal. But now I think there's a plaque there banning me from ever playing Gaga, so I don't know if I'm worthy of that. Hearing everybody speak tonight, the one thing that shines through regarding Morry Stein is the fact that he was such a great communicator. And as far as I'm concerned, communication is everything. Being able to speak to someone, being able to be open and honest about it, being able to talk about absolutely anything opens doors for us to be comfortable with each other. And Morry had that unbelievable ability to do so. And I was very fortunate in that I also had another role model in my father, who was a great communicator and was my best friend, and I had an amazing opportunity to communicate with him. But when I met Morry, I found someone else who not only could communicate, but believed in me. And that was an amazing gift. And for those of us who have not had that opportunity to have a parent or a loved one or a mentor believe in you, having Morry believe in me was an incredible, incredible gift. It was wonderful. And I think about now the communities that we at Project Morry serve and how many people don't have that gift, don't have that mentor. How many people from the communities that we serve, how many people of color in the communities that we serve don't have the opportunities to have a mentor, to have someone who believes in them so fully, like Morry Stein believed in me. That's an absolute gift, and I think Morry saw that, and he understood the importance of that. And whenever I think of Morry, I think of that incredible opportunity that he provided to me. Now, many, many years ago, in 1981, I went to a basketball camp, and there were very few at the time, and when I went there, everybody at the basketball camp was from down south. And at the time that I was there, it was about 95% people of color. It was the black community and the brown community. And I was in a bunk. There were all kids from down south. And the bunk that I was in had young men who were black who were from South Carolina. And they saw this white kid from New York who had a seriously big head of hair. And they asked me, very earnestly, they said, "Are you Jewish?" And I said, "Yes, I am. Why do you ask?" And they honestly stated that they were taught in 1981 in South Carolina that Jews had horns. They were really taught that Jews had horns, and they were amazed in the nicest way possible that I did not have horns. And the meaning is that they could go back to their communities and actually have open conversations about what it meant to meet someone who was Jewish, about the fact that people have preconceived notions that are not true. And I feel that that ability to communicate was passed down to me from Morry in the belief that he had. Communication is not always as it seems. There's an old joke that's told that people talk about Abraham Lincoln and how incredible it was that he went to school every day through the snow and the rain and the sleet, and he walked miles and miles, and it was just amazing. But what they never told you is that Abe was late for school every day. So being able to communicate is incredibly important. And when I used to go with my family to Morry's camp in the summer, when it first started, we would spend the day, and as I said, we would spend the time with the group, and Maddie, who's our oldest and is now 24 at the time, was about 6 years old. And we spent a full day at Morry's camp, and if you've never been, go. It's magic on earth. It's amazing. And we got into the car at the conclusion of the day, and Maddie turned to Hillary and myself, and she said, "Dad, how come all of the kids have dark skin?" What a great question. What an amazing opportunity to communicate, to have that conversation at that age. And I would ask all of you the same question today. Why does such a vast population of our children have dark skin? And why can't we talk about that? Why can't we have that open conversation? Recently, we had a diversity meeting with the board at Project Morry. And my mom, who's here today and celebrated her 84th birthday yesterday, happy birthday. My mom said to me, why would the Project Morry board need to have diversity training? Why would that be? And the truth of the matter is that if you look at our board, and God bless everybody who's on this board, God bless the time they put in and the effort and the finances and everything, but our board doesn't have the diversity of the communities that we represent. And how important is it when you're in a community to look up at the board, to look up at the people, and to see people who reflect who you are and what you look like. And if we can't talk about that, if we can't have that communication ability like Morry taught us, then this whole venture is worthless. Now, Morry, when he was involved and started the Echo Lake idea, which Amy mentioned earlier, he was so selfless that he used to drive the bus. He would drive all the students or the campers, and the campers would famously say, "How come the bus driver has the biggest house?" They wanted to know, but that's who Morry was. He would give of himself, and he would communicate at all times. It was absolutely wonderful. So many years ago, when I went to grad school, I became an attorney, and I worked for a big law firm in New York City, and I was there for a year, and I learned everything in my life I did not want to do. It was a gift in many ways. I was miserable. It was awful. I was billing in 6-minute increments. It was humanless, and it was just horrible. And I wanted to get out of the law completely. So I actually sat down with Morry, and I spoke to him about getting into children's camping because I love that. I had a passion for it. I worked at Echo Lake for many years, right through grad school. And Morry was amazing. And he said, "You know what, why don't you talk to your dad first?" My dad had his own law practice. And we were best friends, so we never had any plans to go in together. We didn't want to jeopardize that relationship. But when I spoke to my dad, he said, "You know what? He goes, why don't we give it a year? Why don't you come in? If either one of us is not completely satisfied after that year, go do whatever you want." And we were together for 15 wonderful years before he unfortunately passed away. Now, that was 17 years ago, but that gift, that ability to work with my father, happened because of Morry and his communication. So I'll share one other thing with you. I spend my life trying to help people. I'm a personal injury attorney, and I know we have a stellar reputation in the world. And a lot of it is justified, the things that people say, but I really love what I do, and I love the opportunity to help people. But the truth is that there are a lot of sad situations that we deal with. My wife, Hillary, is a psychologist. So when we come home, our 3 amazing kids are thrilled with the happy stories that we're constantly bringing home. It can be a challenge, to say the least. But having that ability to work with people, having that ability to be able to help people, all centers from my interactions with Morry. In 1994, I was working with my dad, and I have trouble talking about this and telling the story because I tear up whenever I tell it. But despite all of the challenges and the difficulties, the saddest day of my life to this day was on October 31st of 1994, and my dad came in and he told me what happened to Morry. He told me about the plane crash. And I sit back and I swear to you, all these years later, it still gets me. It's because of the communication and the person, this mentor that believed in me, that communicated with me, was no longer with us. Morry was 41 years old when I met him. 41 years old in 1977. It's staggering, George, when I think of that, how young. And then 17 years later, we lost him. But to have that gift, to have that ability, is something that I will never forget the rest of my life. So in terms of communication, you know, my son Teddy, who's here, he's happy that I gave him a shout out. We spent a lot of time watching sports, talking about sports, breathing sports, living sports, and we watched recently a special in which Archie Manning, who is the father of Eli and Peyton Manning, was being interviewed. Now, Archie Manning had a stellar athletic career himself, unbelievable. He was a legend in college. He was the first overall NFL draft pick. He's so successful at his college at Ole Miss that when he left school, his number 18, they made the speed limit for the entire university. So it's still 18 miles per hour, but that's the South. But he's this absolutely legend in the sports world, and the person interviewing him said to him, "What is your highlight of your sports life?" And he didn't miss a beat, and he said, "When my son Peyton was in the 9th grade, he had an opportunity to play with his older brother Cooper, who was in the 12th grade. And for 1 year, I got to go to all of their varsity football games and see my two sons out on that field together." That was his sports highlight. And I had that same gift with my daughters, with Maddie and Annie. When they were in 9th and 12th grade, they played both basketball and lacrosse together. Definitely at the same level as Peyton and his brother. And it was magical. It was amazing. And I say that because when I think of Morry, I think that what he is doing at all times is he is watching his kids play together. He is watching all of the children at Morry's camp. He is watching all of the children that we are working with. He is watching them play during the summer. He is watching them be productive citizens at other times. He's watching them go to college, and he gets to share exactly what Archie Manning got to see and exactly what I got to see with my children, and he gets to live it all the time, although not physically with us. That is an absolute gift. I will conclude because Tommy Coleman, who you could see was very shy when he came up here, said, "Coop, you got to tell a joke when you finish. You got to tell a joke." So we're going to throw this one out there, and we're going to make it a little clean. But there was a comedian, and Morry had a great sense of humor. He had a very dry sense of humor. He could communicate just by shaking his head or looking at you. And there's a comedian named Gilbert Godfrey, and he tells this great story that there's 3 old guys, and they're complaining, and they're just sitting around complaining about everything. And one of them says, "You know, it's terrible. Every morning when I wake up, I can't pee." And then the next one says, "Oh, you think that's bad? Every morning when I wake up, I can't poop." And then the third one, I know Hillary loves this, and then the third one says, "You think that's bad? Every morning at 7 o'clock, like clockwork, I pee and I poop." And they're like, "Well, what's wrong with that?" He said, "I don't wake up till 9. Like that? So on that very happy note, I will say, thank you all for being here. Thank you for this unbelievable honor. Thank you for your generosity. I love my family. I love all of you for being here, my friends who have come in, my coworkers. Thank you. Thank you.